All right, hello Algebra 2ers. This is just a video note for your Chapter 6B test review. This is for my people who were absent during the review and just some people that just want more extra review. The first thing we're going to look at is our 6.4 power rules. So whenever you are starting with a fraction like this, what I'm always going to recommend for you to do is to simplify your fraction. Look to see inside what can you simplify, what can you make easier for yourself. If I look at these two, if I have my 8 and my 27, I can't reduce those at all. So those are just going to come on down. My x's, reminder, when you have them in fraction form, that means you take your powers and subtract them. So if I have x to the 7th and x to the 1st, that means we're going to subtract them and we're going to have x to the 6th. Now notice I have more of them on top, so I'm going to have x to the 6th on top. My y's, I have 8 of them and 5 of them, so I'm going to subtract them and I'm going to have y to the 3rd. Now I have this 1/3 out here. Now reminder, when you have a power outside there, it has to be distributed and it has to go to everything inside. So you're going to take 8 to the 1/3, to the y or x to the 6th, and y to the 3rd, and here's 27. Now reminder, 1/3 is really the cube root. And reminder, if you on your test don't remember how to do that, you're going to hit the math button, and that button is your cube root is like the 4th or 5th one down there. So when you take the cube root of 8, we're going to get 2. And then reminder, when you do the powers to the powers, you're really multiplying them. So what we're doing is I'm taking 6 times 1/3. Well, when we do that, the 6 and the 3, they're going to kind of cancel each other out. And the 6 is going to become a 2. So I'm going to have x to the 2nd. We're going to do the same thing to those y's. I think I'm not going to show you that step, but I think you guys know if I take 3 times 1/3, well, the 3's are going to cancel, and we're just left with y, or y to the 1st. On bottom here, I'm really taking the cube root of 27, and so what I'm going to have is 3. You always need to look, can you do more? And we can't, so our answer is that right there. Okay. All right, the next one, sorry, I had to readjust my microphone there. On the next one, I see I have x's together, so I want to combine them. And how I'm going to do that is I have this -1 on bottom, so it needs to go to the top. And when I do that, it's going to combine with those other 3. So now what I have is x to the 4th, and this all is being taken to the 3/2. Now there's 2 different ways you can do this. It just depends what you are comfortable with. The first thing we could do is we could just multiply straight across. I have 4 times 3, that will give us 12, and we'd have a 2 on the bottom, and that would reduce to x to the 6th. Now, if any of you are like me, I actually like to reduce first and then multiply. So I'm going to put the 4 over 1, and I'm going to reduce the 2 to the 1 and the 4 to the 2, and when I multiply those, I'm going to have 6 over 1, or just 6. So I got the same answer there, so it depends, do you want to reduce at the beginning or reduce at the end? You'll get the same answer. Okay, so again, if you have fractions like this, I'm always going to recommend you should simplify first. Okay. All right, the next thing we looked at is negative powers. Now reminder, negative powers mean you have to bring it down right away. Everything is going to go under 1. Okay, so I see I have this negative power, so that means it's going to go to the bottom. So I'm going to have 1 over. Now, something I need you guys to notice. The -125 is going to stay as a -125. That's not what we're talking about when we say negative to the bottom. We're talking about the power needs to be negative. That's what goes to the bottom. Now, when you bring it to the bottom, the 2/3 needs to be positive. Okay, that's what causes it to be positive, is by going to the bottom. Okay, now from here, we're going to rewrite this so it's a little bit easier to understand what's going on. Reminder that 3 means we're really doing a cube root of -125, and we're taking that and we're squaring it. That's how we break down that 2/3. And again, remember, you can't use your half orange sheet. You have to use your calculator. So we're going to take the cube root of -125, which is going to give us -25, and we're going to, oop, sorry guys. I was kind of jumping ahead on myself. When you cube root -125, we're going to get -5, and then when we square that, we're going to get +125. Okay. All right. On this next one again, I see I have a negative exponent, so reminder, everything is going to go to the bottom. And notice everything inside here is staying the same. I'm not changing anything. The only thing that's changing is that 1/2 is now positive. Now we already kind of did a problem like this. Remember, the 1/2 has to be distributed to everything, okay? So when I take 16 to the 1/2, what I'm really doing is I'm taking the square root of 16. And when I take the square root of 16, I'm going to get 4. Again, we already kind of did this in a problem up above. When I take that 8 times 1/2, what I'm really doing is taking 8 divided by 2, which is 4. So I'm going to have x to the 4th. And I'm going to have negative 10 divided by 2 is going to give us negative 5. Now, this again, something's wrong here. I have a negative exponent on the bottom, so that's going to need to go to the top. So that's going to be y to the 5th on top. Notice it's now positive, and I'm going to have 4x to the 4th. If you have the 1 in front of the y, that's fine. That's not wrong. But taking a quick check, nothing's negative anymore. I can't reduce anything else, so that is our answer. Okay. All right, so you're going to see some of those on your test. Negative exponent always goes to the bottom. The stuff inside stays the same. All right, the next couple things we looked at are when we add and subtract powers, okay? On this one, when they're next to each other, we're going to take them and we're going to add them. And when they're a fraction like this, you are going, that's an ugly S, sorry everyone, you're going to subtract them. Now this one right here is ready to go. It's in fraction form. So if it's not in fraction form like this, that's actually the first thing I need you to do. You need to write it as a fraction. Okay. Also, back to the basics, back to elementary school, to add or subtract fractions, you need to have common denominators. So for this one, I'm going to multiply them by 3, and this one I'm going to multiply by 2. So I have t to the 3/6 times t to the 2/6. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to add those together, and I have t to the 5/6. Always double check, can I reduce 5/6? And we are not able to do that. Okay. So that one is done. So as I said on this one, my first step is that I have to convert to fractions. So reminder, you have a little itty bitty 2 here and you really have a 1 here. So reminder, the top of your fraction is your powers, the 1, and the bottom is always your root, okay? Same thing here, I have that 4, I have a 1, so what I really have is 5 to the 1/4. Just like that problem we just did, I need to have common denominators. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 2 on this one, so I can get a 4. This one on the bottom is already ready to go, so I have 5 to the 2/4 and 5 to the 1/4. And when I subtract 2/4 minus 1/4, I'm going to have 5 to the 1/4. Okay, you can leave your answer like this. You could also see, well, if I started in root form, you could also write it like this. These are both good answers, okay? So side by side, you add them on top of each other, you subtract them. If they're written like this in root form, always go fraction first, okay? All right, the next section I'm going to talk to you about is our solving section. And now I'm going to stress this section the most. This section is worth the most, it's worth the most points, guys. You need a place to study. Sorry, I had to adjust it again, guys, sorry. If you need a place to study, this is where you should study, okay? All right, so right away, reminder, if you have roots, the first thing you have to do is get rid of it. So you look at your index. So for this one on the left here, it's the square root. So I'm going to square both sides. This one is a cube. So I'm going to cube both sides. So you always want to get rid of those roots first and do whatever index is going to be. Now this one right here is something special. If I have a square root, I'm going to square this side. And reminder on this side, that means I have to square this side. Now that I have a square and everything's being squared, reminder, that means we're going to FOIL it. So to FOIL it, that means I'm going to rewrite this and I have 2 of them. Okay, so we're going to FOIL those. And when I do that, I have x times x, which is x squared, Guys, I'm going to do this in one step. I have x times 4, which is 4x, and I have 4 times x, which is 4x. So when I add those together, I'm going to have 8x. Okay? And then I have 4 times 4, which gives me 16. On our other side here, all of that cancels. So all what I'm left with is x plus 6. Okay? So now that we have a problem like this that's like really crazy and we have x squares and x everywhere, we're gonna have to factor. And the only way to factor is if one of your sides equals 0. Now I see on this one side, I just have x and 6. It's really easy to get that side to equal to 0. So what I'm gonna do is minus x from both sides, and I'm gonna minus 6 from both sides. Okay? When we do that, I'm now gonna have 0 equals x squared, and when I take 8x minus 1x, I'm now going to have 7x. And when I take 16 minus 6, I'm going to have 10. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to factor. So I'm going to have 0, and how I'm going to get 10 and add up to 7 is going to be x plus 5 and x plus 2. Okay, now from here, reminder, you're going to set both of these equal to 0, and we are going to solve. So I'm going to minus 5 on both sides. All right, sorry. So we're going to minus 5 on each side. So this, oops. Okay, there we go. That should work. All right, this one, x is going to equal negative 5. And I'm going to subtract 2, and this x is going to equal negative 2. Now, reminder, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to check. And I'm going to tell you should check every single problem, because first of all, it says you should check, so that's going to be worth a point on your test. But also, you need to check because you need to know, are you actually right? Now, reminder, these ones had something special that happens with them. These ones, when you square both sides, sometimes it causes a bad answer. Okay? All right, so what we do, remember when we check, is we go back all the way to the original problem. So I'm going to check in this one first. So I'm going to have the square root of negative 5 plus 6. And then I have negative 5 plus 4. Now for these guys, for your checks, they shouldn't take that much time. Because look at this. Inside here, I have negative 5 plus 6, which is 1. And the square root of 1 is just 1. On this other side, ladies and gentlemen, I have negative 5 plus 4. Well, that's just going to give me negative 1. Well, does 1 equal negative 1? No. Now, on your test, ladies and gentlemen, when you have an extraneous answer, I need you to tell me that. Some of you have been struggling on that homework. You actually need to cross it out, write as extraneous, do something so I know that you know it's a bad answer. Okay? So now we're going to plug in negative 2. Okay, so I'm going to have negative 2 plus 6, and on this side, I'm going to have negative 2 plus 4. Well, on this side, negative 2 plus 6 is 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. On this other side, I have negative 2 plus 4, which is just giving me 2, which is good, so I know this is our answer. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we look at this problem, if I start scrolling up, this was a huge problem. So this problem is worth a lot, okay? So just be aware of that there are a lot of things that you need to do, and there are a lot of places we could mess up. So that is definitely one I need some people to study, okay? So if I go back to this one says that we have a cube root, so that means I need to cube both sides. Okay, when we do that, the cube and the cube root are going to cancel, so I just have 5x plus 2. Grab your calculator, 3 to the third is 27. Okay, then I'm going to minus 2, okay, and then I'm going to divide by 5, and x is going to equal 5. I'm going to tell you, you need to check every problem. It's nice to know if you're right or wrong for your test, and also so you can get full credit. So I'm going to do the cube root. We have 5. We just found out x equals 5, so I'm going to have 5 times 5 plus 2 equals 3. And again, guys, it shouldn't take you that much time. 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 plus 2 is going to give me the cube root of 27. The cube root of 27 is 3, which is exactly what we had to get, so I know that's a good answer. It's a great idea to check because then you know on your test you are right. Okay. All right, flipping page, we had a couple other ways we learned how to solve. We have, when you have fractions, remember you are going to do the reciprocal. And remember, if you have an even root on the bottom of your reciprocal, it means you're going to get a plus minus. You're going to get two answers, and that means you need to check both of those. Okay? So this one, I have 1/4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 4 over 1, or just 4. On this side, that means I'm going to take 2 to the 4th. So what I'm left with then is 3x plus 1. And on this side, 2 to the 4th is going to give me 16. From here, we're just going to use our solving skills. Okay, and x is going to equal 5. Okay, and then again, we're going to check. I'm going to tell you guys check every time, especially because I'm telling you I'm going to grade you on that. Okay, well, 3 times 5 is 15. 15 plus 1 is going to give me 16. 16 to the 1/4, or the 4th root of 16, if I plug that in my calculator, is going to give me 2, which is exactly what I wanted. Okay, let's look at this one. I'm hoping there's some alarm bells. There's a couple things we have to do. The first is, everybody see that 2 chilling out in front? I have to actually get rid of that first. So now what I have is 3x minus 3 to the 2/3, and this side now equals 9. So as I said, to get rid of 2/3, we're going to do 3/2. And because of the 2 on the bottom, what we're really doing here is I'm doing the square root of 9 to the 3rd power. Well, the square root of 9 is plus or minus 3 to the 3rd power. So what we have here is 3x minus 3 plus or minus, plus or minus 27. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this as 3x minus 3 equals positive 27, and 3x minus 3 equals negative 27. Okay, on both of these, we're going to add 3. So when I add 3, I'm going to have 3x equals 30. And I'm going to divide, so I'm going to have x equals 10. So that's my first answer. And on this one, I'm going to add 3, so I'm going to have negative 24. And I'm going to divide by 3, so I'm going to have x equals negative 8. Okay, so those are my two answers. Now we're going to check them. And again, it's going to be a real quick check, ladies and gentlemen. So I have 2 out in front still. I have 3 times 10 minus 3 to the 2/3 equals 18. Okay, well, 3 times 10 is 30. 30 minus 3 is 27. Okay, if I cube root 27, oops, sorry, there's a 2 still out in front there, guys. If I cube root 27, I'm going to get 9. No, I'm not, you guys. The cube root of 27 is 3. And when I square the 3, because of the 2 on top, I'm going to get 9. So what I have here, I have 2 times 9. Well, 2 times 9, that gets me 18. That's exactly what we wanted. Okay. On this next one, I have run out of space, guys. I'm going to plug in negative 8. So I have 2 times 3 times negative 8 minus 3 to the 2/3, and it equals 18. You're going to find something very similar is about to happen here. I have 3 times negative 8, which is negative 24. I have negative 24 minus 3, which gives me negative 27. Well, if I take the cube root of negative 27, I get negative 3, and negative 3 squared gives me 9. Well, 2 times 9 gives me 18. Okay, so again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge section with a lot of points because we have, look at all these steps we're doing. This problem is huge. Make sure you are checking every problem. It lets you know you are doing the right thing right away. Okay. Whew. All right, on to our next step is when we are doing all of our function work. Okay, we did a lot of stuff with functions, and let's break it down. I'm going to erase some stuff so I actually have space. In this section, what we're doing is we are combining functions, and then we're talking about the domain. Reminder, the domain is talking about if what your x can be. And remember, there's a couple of them that something special happens for. Okay. And my thing is like stuck right now. Does it know what it's doing? All right. That circle's just going to be here, guys. I don't know what that's about. Okay. All right. So here are my two functions. I have my f function. My board's freaking out, everyone. Oh, no. Oh, gosh, it might die, everyone.